Before Afro House filled clubs across the world, its roots stretched across international African rhythms, Afro-Cuban influences, and decades of musical evolution. In just a few minutes, let's trace how one of dance music's fastest growing genres connected culture, rhythm, and electronic music. What is Afro House, you might ask? Afro House is a subgenre of house music that blends traditional African rhythms, percussion, chants, and melodies with modern electronic music production. Unlike mainstream EDM, Afro House focuses less on huge drops and more on groove, rhythm, and emotional storytelling. The music often feels organic and tribal while still being designed for the dance floor. Today, Afro House music has become one of the fastest growing styles in global electronic music, influencing DJs and producers from Africa, Europe, South America, and North America. For us this week, thinking back on this week's homework assignment, you probably noticed another unique trait is that many Afro House tracks don't use traditional drop at all. Instead, they build energy through rhythm and percussion. The origin story? Afro House's DNA really stems from a dark part of history in the transatlantic loop between Africa and the Caribbean area during the slave trade. Today's Afro House music is deeply rooted in the historical movement, not only of the people, but their traditions, music, and singing, along with the evolution of rhythms from Africa and the Americas, and eventually back across the ocean into electronic production. The Afro-Latin-Cuban link, the roots of Afro House music rely heavily on African production like the djembe drum, congos, timbales, along with traditional rhythms. But before today's Afro House, those traditional sounds and rhythms evolved over time, becoming what we know today as Cubano, son, and salsa rhythms. Early house pioneers in the 1980s in Chicago and New York, such as Frankie Knuckles and Larry Levin, blended disco sounds with Latin and Afro-Cuban percussion, which laid the foundation for tribal house. This style and sound spread and made its way back across the pond over to Europe and Africa. The Southern African spark? In the 1990s, following the end of the apartheid in South Africa, DJs and producers took this American European house and tribal sound and reinfused it with their own traditional tribal music, along with local indigenous voices and chants. Thus, the modern Afro House was born, blending of the Chicago four-on-the-floor kick drum with authentic African musicality. As you can tell, the Afro House is global, and some of today's biggest Afro House tracks are produced by artists living thousands of miles apart, often collaborating online from different continents. What makes up the sound of Afro House, you might ask? Well, we have the rhythmic fusion of the kick drums, hand percussion, and tribal drums, blending of the African and Cuban rhythms. On many songs, you might even hear the cultural infusions of the traditional call and response vocal patterns, chants, and singing, along with melodic hooks. And all of this is infused with modern musical elements of deep house vibes with the four-on-the-floor beats, atmospheric pads and melodic textures, extended grooves designed for both the emotional journey and, of course, the long DJ mixes. Rather than focusing on aggressive synths, Afro House often places percussion and vocals at the center of the track with the progressive synths chords. The instruments behind the music. Traditional instruments often inspire Afro House rhythms and are heard in house tracks. These may include the djembe, talking drums, the kalimba, which is a thumb piano, can also be heard in some tracks, and this instrument is over 3,000 years old. You might also hear shakers, congas, bongos, and triangles. Modern producers combine real recordings of these instruments with digital synthesizers, samplers, and drum machines. The result is a blend of ancient musical traditions and modern technology. So why does Afro House music matter today? Afro House has become one of the most influential sounds in modern electronic music. Artists around the world are incorporating African percussion, vocals, and rhythms into house, techno, melodic house, and even pop music. The genre has helped introduce global audiences to African musical traditions while inspiring a new generation of producers and DJs. Today, Afro House can be heard at festivals, clubs, beach parties, and major events across the world. Our takeaway? What we wanted to really drive home to you on this week's brief history lesson is that Afro House is so much more than just another house music genre. And don't get me wrong, house in and of itself is already such an interesting genre. But Afro House really is like the musical bridge that links up traditional African rhythms, modern electronic production, and ultimately centuries of cultural and musical influence that has also helped shape Latin and Caribbean music. Whether you're listening to Afro House, Latin House, or Afro-Cuban music, many of the grooves share common roots that continue to bring people together through rhythm. And if you took the time to sit through and learn with us this week, we truly thank you for that. I believe the history of any and all of these genres helps us to connect a little deeper, leading to a better linkage and love with what we create here and what we DJ.